you hear comedy and Moses in the same sentence and you're like, wait a minute, where is this going? What are you doing? But first and foremost on Mitch's agenda, we're telling the Moses story and we're finding the funny in the humanity and in the in-betweens of scripture. Once you laugh, you kind of let your guard down a little bit, and then you're hit with these, intensely sweet moments. What if God came and told you, was like, hey, Kevin, I need you to lead all these people that you don't really know, hundreds and thousands of them, and you guys need to leave civilized society and go into the desert.
Welcome, my name is Kevin, and this is the Bible Artist Podcast, and today we're joined by Wasim No'Mani, who stars as Moses in The Promised Land, a new kind of Office-ish style comedy that follows the Israelites on their journey out of Egypt to the land of promise. Thanks, Wasim, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Kevin.
Now, when most people think of Moses, the image that probably comes to mind is this larger-than-life, kind of imposing figure. How does your take on the character compare to that?
Yeah, Charlton Heston, right?
Exactly.
Or more recently, Christian Bale. But, I didn't know that much about, obviously, I knew of Moses and, the three Abrahamic prophets. But, when I read this pilot and then went to Exodus, and I was like, oh, wow, Moses really didn't want this job, which was, which was kind of like a magnifying glass into who the guy could have been or would have been, and is what gave Mitch the creative license to be like, yeah, no, he was not the person asserting himself as, yeah, I'm the guy, which I thought was just so interesting, endearing, and intriguing,
Yeah, I love that. It's there in scripture, but people can often miss it just because they have, like you said, Charlton Heston in mind. But
Right.
there is that kind of insecurity that you can see in the original.
What if God
story.
told you? What if God came and told you, was like, hey, Kevin, I need you to lead all these people that you don't really know, hundreds and thousands of them, and you guys need to leave civilized society and go into the desert. You're going to be like, first of all, I'm not your guy. Second of all, no one's going to listen to me. Uncircumcised lips and all these slow of speech. I think it is very informative that God chose him, who was, just a shepherd for the past 40 years, just hanging out with sheep in Midian with his wife and his father-in-law. And now he's got to go back and say, obviously tell them I am that I am, to convince them. Yeah, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine the kind of weight and responsibility because I'm just pretending to be this guy. And just that alone, I'm freaking out with anxiety, just pretending to be him,
Yeah. And, I can tell from what you've already been saying that you and I already have talked to Mitch before, like there's a lot of respect and concern for the kind of the scriptural account that's underneath this figure. But I imagine that there might be some critics who might be concerned, like, oh, are they disrespecting Moses or disrespecting scripture by portraying him in a more comedic light? So, like, how would you respond to that kind of concern?
Yeah, no, I absolutely think that's a justifiable apprehension to have. If you hear comedy and Moses in the same sentence and you're like, wait a minute, where is this going? What are you doing? But first and foremost on Mitch's agenda, I remember him, telling me, I think it was during the audition process, but he's like, no, we're telling the Moses story as the central story. And we're finding the funny in the humanity and in the in-betweens of scripture, what it might be like. But I totally understand anybody who's hesitant to, start the show. But I think that once you start the show, you will see Mitch's intention in that he does want to tell this story as close to scripture as possible, but find the funny in the humanity, Yeah. And obviously people can, have whatever interpretation they want after they watch it. But I would encourage that you watch it first and then, come to a conclusion.
Yeah, and I also appreciate how, it would be easy, people think comedy, they might think like just like kind of dumb comedy where there's not really kind of a uplifting value to it. But one thing I've appreciated about the show so far is just how Moses really does seem to be on a journey of growth. We see him kind of learning things and discovering things. How would you kind of describe his arc in the show, or like kind of how his character is growing?
Well, when God first visits him as the burning bush that is not consumed, Moses' self doubt is so intense that he doubts God.
Mm,
That, and if God created us in his image, it's like a interesting question to me that if, when we doubt ourselves, are we doubting God?
mm.
And so watching him overcome that or try to overcome that with these obstacles, because if you're kind of like a hesitant leader, there's going to be countless of people that are like, okay, then I can do it. You can't do it. I can do it. So watching him overcome that internal obstacle, I think is the most interesting to me. And it's the thing that I relate to the most.
So has the show kind of participating in it, like, has it kind of affected you personally? Do you feel like you've grown as a result of it?
I mean, I think I have grown, but I don't know. Growth is kind of like it's a weird thing.
Mm,
It's like, when I don't have any kids, but when parents talk about their kids, you're with them every day, and then all of a
mm,
sudden, they're adults, and
mm,
you're like, what happened? So I, I don't know. I mean, I want to say I've grown and I've developed as a human being, as an actor, but
mhm.
I can't be certain that that's true.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Well, I mean, beyond kind of just your own personal experience in it, what's your kind of hope for how the show may kind of impact others, the kind of larger influence that it may have, yeah, on viewers and things like that?
I mean, I hope that people obviously are entertained by it, but I hope they're moved and touched and see that the comedy is not obviously making fun of anybody, but it is the comedy. What it does serve as kind of a door opener, so
Mm,
that the heart and the wholesome factor of this story really penetrates in a way that it doesn't when it's just like a straight drama. Because once you laugh, you kind of let your guard down a little bit, and then you're hit with these intensely sweet moments. And people have said, and they said this with The Chosen as well. Also, obviously there are critics of The Chosen, but
mhm,
they say it drives them to go back to scripture and see,
yeah,
and,
definitely.
and read for themselves, because obviously none of these shows or movies are a substitute for
Hmm.
source material, right? And I don't think we can overstate that.
Awesome. Well, Promised Land premieres October 1st on YouTube. Any final thoughts that you'd like to leave people with?
Yeah, I hope you enjoy it. If you want to know more about it, go to thepromisedland.tv. It will be released on YouTube October 1st, Wednesday, October 1st. And then uh, e- every week we'll be releasing another episode to complete the first season. So we really hope you enjoyed it. And we hope you bond and love these characters like we did. And thank you for viewing.